It is a sideshow.
It is, and and the most disappointing thing is that we're not spending this conversation right now talking about what's happening down the street, where Republicans are surgically dismantling the social safety net that Democrats have built in modern history. They're taking away SNAP benefits. They're going to make it less possible for people to retire with a level of dignity and decency in terms of going after Social Security. And there are so many people who are in long-term care right now who are saying, am I going to be able to afford to keep my loved one with the professional services and care that they deserve? That's what's happening down the street. But there comes a time where you have to address the circus that has been created by David. And for weeks now, I have tried to ignore what he has come on every network that will have him. I know he's been here multiple times.
Because you didn't say anything for a number of weeks.
No, I didn't. I didn't. I didn't say anything for a number of weeks because it leads to the inevitable feedback that you get of we don't want to see the party fighting. We don't want to see people fighting. We want to see the Democratic Party that is strong enough to meet this moment and talk about, as I said, how we make life better for working people and working families. But here's the problem. David has a very casual relationship with the truth. And he has not been truthful on so many points that have been raised on this show. And what pushed me over the edge was the statement that he put out after this vote of the Credentials Committee. And I want to be very clear. I got well over the number of votes you needed because of the support of DNC members that trusted me to do the job I'm now doing. And so am I frustrated that they are now effectively invalidating my election and saying that we need to run in another election? Of course I'm frustrated. But David's first statement out of the gate was, here's the Democratic Party doing some maniacal thing to push me out because of what he's doing with his pact. David knows that that is not true. And so for all of the people who have, like I had, really high hopes for what David could bring for this party and who are now looking at the message that he's been pushing out and the emails that they've been getting from him about how he wants to reform the party, you have to be honest with people. And I know how disappointing it is to have me here tonight on your TV screen not talking about Donald Trump. But David has not been honest. And there's an old saying that a lie will get halfway around the block while the truth is putting its shoes on. Well, the truth has its shoes on, and the truth is going to fight back, and I'm going to do that tonight, and I'm going to continue to do that.
Now, you said that he's been fast and loose with the facts without rebuttal. What are the things that you are accusing David Hogg of lying about?
Not accusing him, I'm just telling people what he's done. So he put out a statement saying that the Democratic Party, that the challenge yesterday is the Democratic Party trying to get him out of here. David understands very well, like I understand, that this challenge was filed back in February, well before David ever said anything about leaders we deserve. And the reason the hearing is just taking place now is because, unlike this administration, the Democratic Party does believe in due process. And so there was an ability for the person who lost to submit their challenge. There was an opportunity for us to respond. And then the the Credentials Committee had to get together and set up a timeline to hear that. That's the reason of the timeline. And so for him to put out a statement saying that this is about what I'm doing to reform the party, he knows that that is false.
Are there other things that he's done and said in the last month?
Absolutely. And here's what's so disappointing. I know that this party has to change. It has to change in massive ways. And I did not run because I thought everything was going great. I ran because I thought that we needed to be a Democratic Party that, as I've said now, is focused on working people and working families and how we're going to make their lives better. That's what we should be doing. That's what I've tried to do. And I think our chair, and Ken Martin, has also tried to do that and do it in ways that I know to the average person is boring. But, Simone, you've been on the DNC, and we operate through a complex system of rules. Ken Martin put forward the most dynamic and transformational rules reform package we've ever seen, including for the first time ever actually giving up some of his authority to appoint members to key committees to democratize the process. David sat in a meeting with me where Ken laid out that agenda well before Leaders We Deserve. And he understood why those reforms are being put forward. And then he goes on Bill Maher, he goes on wherever he goes and says that these reforms are a way to muzzle me. So how do you say to people that I'm going to reform the Democratic Party when you have such tenuous connection to the facts? That can't happen. And we are in a position where You know, it's like being in class where somebody's throwing something at the back of your head and, you know, you say nothing and then you finally turn around. And I'm finally turning around to ask David to stop with the mischaracterizations, to stop with the untruths, and to get back to the work of building the Democratic Party.
Do you, as you know, David Hogg was here last night, and he basically said that the challenge, he said in the conversations that he's had with members of the DNC, the consensus prior to the announcement of the primary challenge effort was that the challenge was not going to make it past the committee, and he's basically saying that it went forward because of what he did with Leaders We Deserve. That being said, I think there are a lot of people in the DNC that share your sentiment. I've talked to many of them. People were texting me. They texting right now as we sit here. What I want to know is two things. One, do you think that the membership should re-elect David Hogg as a vice chair? Do you think he would be well to continue to serve as a vice chair if, and get reelected? And then I also want to know what you think about this primary challenge situation, because there are a lot of, let David Hogg tell it, young people that are thanking him for this effort, that are saying, thank you, we need this. We need young people to challenge the status quo and challenge the older elected officials.
Let me take them one at a time. On number one, I think the DNC should re-elect Malcolm Kenyatta as vice chair. On number two, I think that when people talk about primaries, let me say this as clearly as I can.
Because you're an elected official.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this as clearly as I can. The DNC is not an incumbent protection racket. And I think a part of why he has been able to sort of massage this a certain way is because there is a misunderstanding that the DNC is on the side of the incumbents. I'm here to say I'm not endorsing an incumbent. And I'm also here to say that the DNC should not be endorsing challengers, that the DNC should be focused on the election in November and beating Republicans. There is a misunderstanding of the structure of how we work. The DCCC is a campaign arm of the House Democrats, and they're focused on electing those Democrats. The DSCC is focused on electing members of the United States Senate. We have to be focused on electing the nominees. I 100% agree that our party needs to see an infusion of leaders that are ready to meet this moment. But my fundamental disagreement is this: who should decide? I don't think that a couple of party bosses should sit in a room and decide who's meeting the moment or not meeting the moment. And I don't think that that's actually how we revive our party. David believes that the way that we transform our party is that he gets to dictate the outcome of primaries. I believe that we should respect and trust voters. And the way we transform our party is by doing the work that can sound boring, but that's deeply important. And it's the work that I've been doing. We have been working to recruit the most dynamic talent to respond in real time to Donald Trump's lies, to make sure we have the technology to reach voters wherever they are. We have been trying to push out what I would argue to you is the Democratic Party message: make life better for working people and working families. And we're going to spend every day talking about how we make life better for that mom who's being squeezed, how we make life better for that senior who's worried about a dignified retirement, how we make life better for working people who want to be able to join a union by passing the PRO Act, raising the minimum wage, and how we make life better by getting Donald Trump in a position where he no longer has both houses of Congress who are going to, roll over and play dead as he tries to shred our Constitution. So I welcome David's partnership in actually building that type of Democratic Party, but it's going to require him to recognize that changing the Democratic Party is not just sitting on TV saying Democrats suck.
Well, Representative Kenyatta, I wish we had more time, but we are out of time.
I'll come back.
Well, we're going to have you back. DNC Vice Chair Malcolm Kenyatta, honey, he has something to say.